Good afternoon. What's happening, folks? Welcome back. It is live full-time reaction to Ross County 0, Celtic 2. I've got Chris and Darren with me to go over that one. Chris, we've seen many scintillating performances this season. I don't think that was one of them, but job done. Back to 9 points clear, 8 games to go.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, Paul, that you can take from today's game is that we found a way to get a result away from home, 15 consecutive wins. Definitely not our best today. Very similar to the Aberdeen game coming out of the last break, to be completely honest, up against a team who, for the most part, barring 10 minutes at the beginning of the second half, just put 10 men behind the ball and just wanted to make it very difficult for us to break them down. But I did think there were some good performances today out of a few of the players, and just honestly happy to get out of there with another 3 points, and it just puts us in a really strong position. Obviously, going into next week's game against Rangers, 9 points clear, a chance to go 12 points clear, and just put that final nail in the league campaign coffin.
Aye, Darren, a few changes to the team today. Obviously, a first league start for Iwata. Dyson was starting though after coming back for international duty with injury. I think that was a surprise. It just seemed like there was maybe a few cobwebs there over the piece today, but early doors as well, we just didn't really hit our stride. Do you think that's to be expected after the international break?
I think that's got to be a factor as well, plus the changes to starting 11. I think we're obviously missing, two of our most key players since the back of the World Cup. So it was always going to be a kind of a slow game, and I always dread going to Ross County, even though I think we have a good track record there. It's always... I just get a bad gut feeling about going up there. Maybe it's the travelling or something, but, Chris kind of echoed it. You just want to go up there and get the win. It was by no means a vintage performance. I remember looking at my notes seconds before the penalty, and I literally had Greg Taylor hits the post. That's the only notes I had. So it was just one of those games. I think the midfield was kind of slower tempo than we usually have. You can expect that with Matt O'Reilly coming in. Iwata I thought he played all right. Maybe Callum McGregor kind of didn't have his best game playing the forward role, obviously kind of that, but I much prefer him the 6. Iwata played well for me, but I knew it wasn't going to be a high-scoring normal Celtic display, but I always want to come away from Dingwall with 3 points, and as Chris said, we've got Rangers in the next game. Win that, league's over.
Yeah, Chris, I think we're just on the ball, slack at times in the first half. It doesn't happen often that Ange gets frustrated, but you could see him getting frustrated a couple of times. Just a bit lax in possession. I think that continued for periods in the second half, but as Darren says, the only real time we came close to scoring was when Greg Taylor rattles the post, and then we get the penalty, obviously. That we think that the halftime whistles went because we're over the stoppage time, and then there's a VAR check. It's a Jakovic handball. He goes up with Carter Vickers. The ball coming in for the corner. You didn't see it at the time, but I think on looking back at it, his arm's out here. It hits his arm. We know that handball is as clear as mud these days, but we'll take that against the 5 dodgy ones we've had go against us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, his arm, based on the new definition of what a handball is in the natural arm position, honestly, it's one that's been given against us. Like before we came on air, we were talking about the 2 that have been like egregiously given against us this year, were the Bernabei handball, where he doesn't even know where the ball is and it was given a penalty, and then the Matt O'Reilly one as well. So, I was glad to see a decision go our way. Actually, when Colin went over to the VAR, I was actually pretty confident he was going to give the penalty, just based on the immediate replay that we saw. And, to your earlier point, yeah, I mean, Greg Taylor hit the post. Taylor also had another chance where he came in on his foot and, goalie made a good save. But other than that, and the Carter Vickers header that was earlier in the half, he just kind of got a little bit below the ball, but brilliant, cut back by Johnston with his own header. But those were just very limited chances. And you talked about Postecoglou's frustration. I think one of the things that you didn't really see today off camera, but Kyogo continues to make those runs into the channel. But without Hatate and Moy and their vision, I really felt we weren't looking for him. So we just didn't really create those opportunities with those inside balls. But, you know, the goal came at a very good time in terms of the context of the game. It was literally the last kick of the ball. If the keeper had saved it, there would have been no rebound. It was literally the last kick of the ball. You could see Colm tell that to McGregor and Jota right before he took the penalty. A better struck penalty this week, at least, than the one he scored last week, or a couple of weeks ago, before the break. Put it right down the middle. But I definitely don't think I'm super confident when he steps up to take a penalty.
I mean, we've had a few different takers recently. I think it would be before today's penalty. It was 4 different takers, the last 4 penalties, but he did put it away down the middle, which was brave, and Laidlaw just sort of went too early to get anything on it. Dan, what were your thoughts on the penalty award?
Well, I never actually seen it at the time. I thought that when they went to VR, because there was, I think it was Kyogo get kind of shirt pulled to the edge of the box. I thought that's what it was for, and I was like, no, that's soft. That's not going to be a penalty. And then I went over and I seen the replay, and I was like, as soon as I seen it hit his hand, I was like, that's obvious. It's got to be, because his arm's out, and it's not as if it's like Carter Vickers' head on his arm. Like, he's about to get his head on it, and the guy puts his arm out and hits his arm. So for me, it's a clear penalty. I'm sure others that support a different team will disagree, but for me, it's a clear-cut penalty.
I think so. I think it's a penalty as well. And as I say, we've plenty to go against us. So if we want to talk about things evening themselves out, we've still got a few to go. Chris, I thought in the early period of the second half, Ross County, in fairness to them, did push up the pitch a bit. They tried to press us, and I thought the performance today was kind of littered, as I've touched on already, with us being poor in possession. But it's a 10-15 minute spell, maybe 10 minutes max to be fair, but where we just couldn't really get out. Starfelt had made a few errors in the ball, even Carter Vickers as well. And we just really lost our rhythm at that period of the game.
Yeah, we did. And it's very unusual, because the way that County set up today, especially in the first half, the amount of times that they just let Starfelt and Carter Vickers push up the park with the ball was clearly something that Malky Mackay addressed at the half time, because, like you say, they really pressed us high for a good 10-minute spell there at the beginning of the second half. So fair play to them. And normally that's not an issue for us, but just, I don't know, we were just a little bit off it today. Obviously Greg Taylor going off injured is a concern. Hopefully it's just nothing more than a heavy knock. But of the back 4 today, I thought Johnston was by far the best out of all 4 of them. He made some tremendous runs today. There was a
few great crosses
and a few brilliant crosses. And like I say, he had that header that he set up, Carter Vickers, and just his energy, and we all know he loves the tackle, right? And I don't know if you heard, but like, he played the first game for Canada during the week, but then he sat with the fans for the second game when he was away on international duty. Like, he's just someone you absolutely love to see play. He's very physical. He's got great pace, and I think we're seeing an improvement in his crossing ability. That was something you and I talked about, Paul, after he first signed, was, are we going to see some, goals to assist ratio with him? But I thought he was tremendous today. But yeah, Starfelt, couple of really slack moments again. And he's just, I know he's a polarizing player for a lot of Celtic fans. I still think he's a really, really good defender. But I think long term, I'm still not convinced if he can play at the highest level, which for us is ultimately going to be in Europe. Carter Vickers, for sure, we know what he's all about. The question is, how long will he stay at the club? But yeah, definitely poor today at times across the back. And obviously Taylor going off, like I mentioned, definitely a concern. But we'll come to another polarizing figure shortly, I'm sure, in Alejandro Bernabei.
I will get to that. Darren, before today, 12 of our last 13 goals have been in the second half. So you're kind of expecting a bit more an onslaught from us in the second half after the sort of slow start to the game. Didn't really happen, but we did have chances as the second half progressed. Obviously, Kyogo misses an absolute sitter, and then as Ross County are trying to push forward late in the game, there's more space. Jota hits the bar. We eventually get the second goal, but we did create a bit more as the game went on.
Well, I think we'll draw a line in the sand and not talk about that Kyogo miss, because that was absolutely horrendous. Right, that's the last I'm going to say about But I think that the start of the second half was a bit cagey. It kind of echoed the way the first half was ending. And then as it got into the last 15 minutes, a lot of subs came on for both teams. And the game did kind of open. Ross County did have a few chances, as Chris was saying there about Starfield being a bit cagey. But it did open up the game, and I thought we actually should have scored a lot more. That I think Johnson put in a lot of good balls. For a lot of time, no one was there to get on the end of it. There was a lot of times where people were just at that half yard away from getting the ball in, and Jota hits the bar, and you're thinking, it's just going to be 1-0, and it could be typical Celtic where they got apart and got a late goal. But I'm sure we'll move on to that Bernabei chance. We've gave him so much stick recently. I think it's time we give him a bit of credit. Do you?
Aye, great. What a strike! You knew as soon as it came across his body, he was just going to lash it right into the top corner. Brilliant, great to see him get a goal. That should do his confidence the world of good. Chris, he's obviously not had a run of games this season. I think he's looked a bit erratic when he has played, but you can see we know all the raw attributes are there. But that should help him.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, Paul. Like, he is very much a raw talent. As Kenny has said, he's a little bit of a project, right? He's very young, obviously coming over from Argentina, totally different football culture here. But I thought going forward when he came on today, he made a brilliant run earlier after he came on and made a really fantastic ball across. Even after he scored, he put a nice ball across, almost got via at the back post. So going forward, I think he's much more of I won't say a finished product, but there's definitely, an upside there. But like, you're not going to strike a more purer ball than that. And to be honest, the way the goal came about, if you look back at the replay, it was actually a fantastic tackle by Turnbull out on the far side. And then Jota makes a good ball. It's dummied. Awata kind of is a little past it. And then obviously Bernabei just lets it go through the laces, and good for him. That'll give his confidence a huge boost. And I didn't mind his performance when he came off today. He didn't really make any kind of egregious mistakes in possession, which has been a hallmark of his early Celtic career at times. But what a fantastic strike! Just brilliant.
Nice to get the relief and secure the points at that period of the game as well. I've had that a few times up at Ross County where we're either level going in late in the game or there's a 1-goal lead and then we seal it in added time. Darren, a few comments today about the tempo in midfield. John Watt saying O'Reilly posted missing again, the tempo too slow. We know Matt O'Reilly's had such challenges this season. I think he's even mentioned some off the field stuff, but he did struggle a wee bit today, didn't he? I thought he was quite poor, given the high standard that we've come to expect from him.
Well, we always still compare Matt O'Reilly to Tom Rogic, I think, and with Matt O'Reilly, when they're playing on a tight pitch and he's not got the space, because like we said, he's really slow. He's got great attributes to his game. He can, well, maybe not this season, but he has scored. He can definitely set up, but he needs space. On a tight pitch like that against Ross County, you're not going to get that. So when the game's intense and Ross County are in your face, they're sitting back, you're not going to get any room in their half. So he is always going to struggle. And his lack of game time's obviously not helping. It's not even his fault, really, to be honest. You mentioned there the off-field stuff. I don't know anything about that. But with the form Aaron Moy, it's always just going to put him out the team and affect his confidence, even though he's not really doing anything wrong. And it's like you say, you have to be a step above the other players if you want to get in this team. You will get minutes, but you're not going to guarantee the start every game. And I think that has affected Matt O'Reilly, because when he came in last January, he was pretty much thrown at the team because I think Rogic was injured. So he was pretty much playing every single game, and it really suited him. This season it's completely different. We have so many options. Even if you are playing well, you'll get hooked at 75 minutes anyway to get other guys some game time. So I think the main thing for him is to try and get game time, which he's probably not going to get just now. I don't know. I think he just needs to get his head down, just get on with it, because it's in his control, but it's not in his control. He's going to get limited game time, but when he gets the game time, he has to perform. Yeah, and this is an opportunity with the likes of Hatate and Moy injured. A wee bit of non-Celtic news. Few people have commented Brendan Rodgers sacked or left by mutual consent, but Leicester in the relegation zone. There you go. Chris, the subs helped us. They did. I thought was brilliant when he came on.
Bernabei, we've already talked a little bit about his goal. Haksabanovic as well, carrying the ball, had a great chance, blazed it over when you were just expecting the net to burst again. In that same position, we've seen him score against Hearts and Hibs recently. But they were a boost for us, and we needed the subs at that stage in the game.
Yeah, 7 of our last 10 goals have actually come from our substitutes, right? That's a remarkable statistic. And you also mentioned the number of goals we've scored in the second half. So those 2 stats are definitely, not a coincidence, Paul. But yeah, that's the huge thing that I think we have. Number one, the 5 substitutes is huge for us, given the strength and depth that we really have in our squad. I mean, just think of the number of players, to Darren's point, that are not getting, starting minutes, because at the end of the day, when fully fit, nobody's getting in front of Hatate and Moy right now, and McGregor. That's just the bottom line. That's going to be the 3 all the time when they're fit, or if we're not having to juggle, 2 games a week for a sustained period of time. So you've got to take your opportunities when you come on as a substitute. I think for the most part, Haksabanovic and O have done really well coming off the bench. And obviously Abada is injured right now, but he's probably been our most impactful player, off the bench this season. And up until his injury, was the only Celtic player that had played in every game this season, whether it be in the starting 11 or in coming off the bench. So it does make a massive difference that you can bring on that level of quality. And I totally agree. I just love that turn he made of the young boy just made him
brilliant.
So foolish. But that's the thing. He has some of the hallmarks of Giakoumakis in that sense, where he's a big boy. He can really hold up the ball, but his first touch is actually really quite superb. And that drive and run, and he took a fantastic shot. He didn't miss by much, but there's definitely a player in there for sure. And I think he's going to go on and make a very meaningful contribution to this Celtic team moving forward.
He's a totally different animal, isn't he, to Kyogo again? Similar attributes to Giakoumakis, but as you say, I do think his touch is better. And that was really nice. It'd have been brilliant if he could have finished that. What a goal that'd have been, straight for Joe Hart's goal kick. Darren, all the attention will turn to next week's derby on Saturday at Celtic Park. In terms of the team, your concerns have got to be Hatate, Moy and Taylor.
Aye, of course, that's the first thing we want, is that they're back fit for the manager's press conference. We're led to believe that the 2 midfielders will be back. I think it's becoming more known to Celtic fans now that Taylor, there's definitely something up with Taylor that's not just a one-off thing. He's definitely carrying something, I think. I have no idea what it is, but he's definitely, I think it came off, was it Hearts that came off for Bernabei as well?
Yeah.
He's definitely got something, and I can't remember, maybe you, Paul, you said something like it's getting looked at the end of the season or something. But, fingers crossed he's fit. He's probably my most consistent player this season. You want your fullest, strongest team possible, and we had our strongest team in the cup final when we absolutely bossed that game. So I think if we can get Taylor back, Hatate, Moy, we're missing anyone else. Don't think everyone else is fully fit in there. So
Abada, we're going to be missing
Abada, of course. We're going to be, and that's a shame, because Celtic Park against Rangers, he's usually quite a big difference. So we're him missing, but again, we've got more wide options now than we ever had. So missing Abada in the 2. But if it's up to me, I would probably say, well, if I'm guessing, it'd be Maeda and Jota. Obviously, it's he's the go-to. But I my heart sinks for a bit for Haksabanovic, because he has been playing well recently. What I'm kind of gathering is more of an impact player. That last 15 minutes when defenders are tired, just comes on, kind of his job is to just skin players and try and create chances. But I think I don't know. I wouldn't really be too bored with who starts. Obviously, I think he will start Maeda, because it's going to be a big pitch. The game's going to be open. Rangers aren't going to sit back. So Maeda will obviously be more effective. I think that's why he wasn't in the game today. Ross County sat back, narrow pitch. He was just hugging a touchline, wasn't really involved too much. So, aye.
I think Haksabanovic, you've seen it in the cup final, a great outlet for us late in the game, had chances to score. I think you could maybe say he's half done by, but I don't think he will start. Chris, the big ones are Hatate and Moy in midfield, because as Darren said, the cup final, we had our strongest team out and we really bossed it. It was a really strong performance, and you'd expect with the home crowd behind us next week, if we can get a fully fit starting 11, you'd back us.
Oh, for sure. And I think Hatate and Moy didn't play today because it really wasn't necessary. Like if we're talking that we were only 3 points up and we had to win to extend it to 6, or even a narrower gap, then you maybe see those two play. But, given how well we've been playing, the last 6 weeks, there's just no need to risk them. You could have made an argument that Taylor maybe didn't even need to start the game today, but he has been very instrumental in how we have played this year for sustained periods. So, hopefully his knock on the knee, like I say, it's just a heavy knock. And if Hatate and Moy are 85, 90% fit next week, then they definitely start the game. And for sure, it's going to be Maeda, Kyogo, and Jota across the front. And then you've got lots of flexibility, later in the game with different options off the bench. But, it really is going to come down to the fitness of those players. If they're fit, they play. Yeah,
absolutely. And for Taylor, I think it was just a knock today. I hope it's just like an impact injury, sort of dead leg scenario, and it's not. I think the Achilles is the thing people are talking about. Who knows though? But hopefully it's not worsened any underlying injury. But he's big for us. Darren, man of the match today. There's a few shouts in the comments for Alistair Johnston. A few even for Iwata. Did you have?
Ali Johnson was on the tip of my tongue there. I thought it just kind of done the basics right, got up and down the wings really well. Every game, I notice his attacking side of the game is getting better, because that first couple of games defensively was fine, but he was always a bit hesitant to maybe overlap the winger or put a cross in. I think he's just getting more confident. He's getting used to the way Celtic play. Definitely don't miss Josip Juranovic anymore as much as I loved him. I think most Celtic fans have completely forgot about him already, because that's how much an impact Alistair Johnston's made. Not just his performances, his attitude and the way he comes across himself as well. So really getting better every game, and definitely my man match today.
I'd give it to Johnston as well, Chris.
Yeah, that's a hat-trick for AJ. I thought he was tremendous today. Yeah, definitely a shout-out for Iwata and Jota. I both thought they played well today. Good to see Iwata get 90 minutes, but I thought Alistair Johnston was tremendous, and totally concur with Darren. He's really growing into the role and understanding the formation and what's expected of our inverted fullbacks is really starting to see the benefits now. And he's just, again, January signings last year and this year have been absolutely instrumental in bolstering the squad or adding to the depth of the starting 11. And he's just another example of that in Alistair Johnston.
Absolutely, a full house for Johnston for man of the match. That's it for full-time reaction. The Hoops are back to 9 points clear. There's 8 games to go, and we're all looking forward to next Saturday. Like this video, comment with your own thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back with you during the week with a preview show for the build-up to that game at Celtic Park. Cheers.